Good day, grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's English First Additional lesson. My name is Karabo Day. This lesson is brought to you by Gauteng Department of Education in collaboration with Sci-Bono Discovery Center and broadcast by Pagama Research and Development. Our topic for today is comprehension skills. Our focus is on the skill reading and viewing. To be closer to home, you need to note that comprehension test is part of paper 1. Paper 1 is out of 80 marks. And the comprehension test, it is out of 30 marks. Of the 30 marks, 24 is for text A and 6 marks for text B. This is what is at stake for you in paper 1. Remember what you would be practicing throughout the year? The end result is you are sitting for a paper 1 paper, 80 marks, and our main focus today is for your 30 marks. Why is it necessary to note comprehension test? It is because we want to encourage people to read with understanding. That is the purpose of doing a comprehension test. So you need to read with understanding. What are the skills that are tested in the exam? We test you on finding the main idea, to locate specific details, to understand explicitly stated information, to guess the meaning of unfamiliar words from context, that is, you infer. Furthermore, we would like you to identify the structure, the content, as well as the sequence of events and procedures. Importantly, we would like every learner or every reader of a comprehension test to follow instructions. Identify ideas in the text and the relationship between them. That is probability, solution, as well as the cause and effect. When you have mastered the comprehension skills, you are able then to identify, to locate, distinguish, and compare facts. The evidence, opinions, implications, definitions, as well as hypotheses. And we also draw logical inferences. We have a method that we use in tackling a comprehension test, and we call it the SQ3R method. Again, the SQ3R method, or the SQRRR. What does that imply? The first is S, you scan. That is scanning. You look over the passage for what? For illustrations, subheadings, as well as bold words. You look through quickly. Questions. You read the questions. You label each question with a skill. Remember when we first give you the exam paper or a comprehension passage, we expect you to do what? To scan. You look over the passage quickly for illustrations, for subheadings, for bold words. And when you are done, what do? You look at the questions. You label each question with a skill. You continue to read the passage, and as you read the passage, we would like you to write or underline the main idea for each paragraph. The reading passage will have paragraphs, will have numbering. The numbering, you will have two sets of numbering. The first set is the numbering of the passage 1, passage 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. And then you will also have the numbers that indicate the line number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you will have a 5, 10, 15, and 20. Then you will reread the passage and highlight the evidence. When you are done, the last R, you recheck that all questions have been answered and evidence has been provided. So that is your SQR. Now check the following video. Excellent. The video that you have just watched explains explicitly what happens with the method, the SQ3R. Now, learners, let us look at the 9 tips to remember when attempting to read a comprehension test. Firstly, do not overemphasize details. Do not memorize every word in the passage. You're reading, isn't it? And you cannot memorize every word in the passage. Read the question first. That will help you to focus on the things you have to in the comprehension. Do not rely on trigger words like but, however. They change what was originally said. That might confuse you if you do not read attentively. The correct answer will always come from the passage. Your answer must always take the passage into account, even the open-ended ones. Remember when we ask you open-ended questions? We want your view, what you think. Even then, your response must be grounded in the text of the passage. Don't stress over words you do not understand first time. Make notes. Underline or write a word down, and that must be short. You're making notes, isn't it? Remember, a comprehension passage is a working document. Try and guess what the possible questions might be. Let us think. Read through the passage quickly. What do we call that? We are skimming and scanning. That is, we are reading for meaning. The first time around, you read through passage quickly and you get the gist of what the passage is all about, and that we call it skimming and scanning. We get the outline or the general picture of the passage. We try to picture what we are reading. This helps you to focus and to read for meaning. Remember, we are doing a comprehension test, and at the back of our mind, we must read with understanding. Take note of the following. The title of the comprehension passage may give you a clue of what the passage is all about. Let's look at this heading, the problem of food wastage. It is written in capital letters because it is what? It is the title. And we have pictures there. We see a slice of pizza, hamburger, broccoli, banana, and we have lastly a dustbin. The problem of food wastage. The author may help you to identify the time, style, and often the subject. The introduction often creates the atmosphere and provides the setting for what is to follow. As you read, the words do what? The introduction creates an atmosphere, and immediately in your mind, you're thinking of what is to follow. The conclusion usually ties up the intention of the author. The first paragraph, that is our introduction of wastage of food. This creates an atmosphere. Let's see. While some communities are throwing stale food out of their fridges because they are over catered for the week, others are picking through landfill signs, looking for the next meal and eating rotten food directly from city garbage heaps. The local rubbish dump is the very end of the road for food waste. Some of us have a lot of food in the fridge, isn't it? And if we waste it, what happens? Throw it away. And it lands where? In the garbage. And some other people who do not have much do what? They go and plow in the garbage and in the heaps and find that food. The title may offer a clue to the contents and the purpose. The author may help to identify the time, the style, and often the subject. The introduction often creates the atmosphere and provides the setting for what is to follow. The conclusion usually ties up the information. The introduction continues, but for some of Southern Africa's poorest, it is a regular source of the only nourishment they will get. There's an increasing alarm about the high food prices and the regional shortages that has pulled the focus on the matter of food waste and how much it contributes to the problem. What problem are we interested in now? That is food wastage. The conclusion. We said the conclusion usually ties up with the intention of the author. Instead, in a global food market, we are essentially buying food from the same common source. If rich countries buy hundreds of millions of tons of food and end up throwing this into the bin, they are gratuitously removing food from the market which could have remained there for other people to buy. So it's a problem, isn't it? So can you see the conclusion tying up with what the author wanted us to know? And what is it that he wanted us to know? It's about food wastage. Let's look at another title. A title gives a clue. Cyber criminals harvest users' personal information. Immediately when you read such a title, immediately you're thinking of things that you are going to read about. What are those? Which image best suits the title? Is it A, B, C, or D? Criminals harvest users' personal information. And I hope you know what cyber is, isn't it? Yes, I know you know that. So C would be our correct answer. Now, let's look at the questions that will follow after having read or skimmed or scanned a passage. Who is the writer of that passage? Who are the characters? The writer could be an adult, could be male, could be female, could be somebody famous. And who are the characters? Could be children, adults, male, female, or someone famous. So that you will find as you read. Remember, you are reading with understanding and you are asking yourself questions. Who is the writer of the passage? Who are the characters in this passage? What is the main idea of the passage? It could be addressing what? a general idea, or a focused topic. Where does it take place? And the where does it take place answers which question? The question of setting. It is specific venue, or is it a universal issue that you have to ask yourself as you are reading the passage? When does it take place? This story or these ideas, the setting, the time, the date, and the era. It could be during the centuries ago, or it could be during the Middle Ages. Ask yourself a further question, question number 5. Why has this passage been written? What is the writer's intention? The writer could be looking at informing us, or it could be for entertainment purpose, or to educate, or persuade, or inspire. These are the relevant questions that you have to ask yourself. Furthermore, the question that you have to pose to yourself as you read: how does the writer express himself? What language devices are used? It could be formal, informal language, or the author or the writer could be using the figures of speech. Now, let's read through the comprehension questions. When you read the comprehension questions, when you do this, you must keep in mind the following. The questions will give you clues, right? And those clues will lead you to the answers in the passage. I know many teachers prefer reading questions before they read the passage. And that will give them the indication after they've read the questions and they read the passage, in their minds, they will be solving or getting the answers. Do not copy directly from the passage, unless, of course, you are asked to do what? To quote. Use own words as far as possible. If you have to change own words, or you have to use own words rather, if they are with, check synonyms, replace with the same part of speech, or use a synonym or an antonym to replace words that were used by the author. And when you do that, the sentence immediately changes to your own words because you haven't quoted directly from the passage. Let's look at answering techniques. Does question require full sentence, one word, or a phrase, or a clause? Do not start your answer with a conjunction. What is a conjunction? Joining words. Because, and, but. Do not start your answer with conjunctions. Be advised that mark or location is an indication of number of points you have to make. As you read the questions, please be mindful of the mark allocation that will show you or will indicate to you the number of points you have to make. Number your answers exactly the same as the question. Do not deviate from the numbering system in the question paper. If asked to write 3 consecutive words, write only 3. Consecutive words, what does that mean? Words following each other. And where do you get those words? In the particular passage or line that the author has referred you to. So consecutive, the words will follow one after the other, so it will be 3 in this case. Avoid one-word answers, except if asked for one word. If you were asked for one word, give one word. If you have to answer a question, write it in full. Each new answer to be written on the new line. Leave a line open between questions. Don't muddle up your answer sheet. There should be some sequence and you must be neat all the way. If you use quote, please use quotation marks. Can you see these? Those are quotation marks. If you were asked a tone of the passage, just use one adjective. When you are done, what do you need to do? Edit your answers. Guidelines, section A. How many minutes are you supposed to write for? You are supposed to write for 50 minutes. So you have ample time. For section A, comprehension test, 50 minutes. Use that time effectively. So you have time to edit your answers. The answering skills. Tone of the writer. What does it entail? How does the author-writer feel about the topic? That is the tone of that passage. Determine the purpose of the writer. Why did he write this passage? Understand vocabulary in the text. Look at the unfamiliar words in context. Make inferences. Assume the answer is not obvious. Read again and check. Could this be correct? Be able to identify the main idea. Learners, now you need to reread the passage again. Do not take the reading passage and answer quickly and forget about it. No. You read, now you must reread the passage. This time, you should be aware of what has been asked. Highlight the main idea in each paragraph. Each paragraph presents what? A new idea. The first sentence is often the key sentence, the leading sentence. Words and ideas that were first confusing. Remember, at first, you did not know certain words. But now, as you have read again and read the questions, you are able to piece together confusing words or words that are difficult or that were difficult for you. They now become clearer in context. The more familiar you are with the passage, the easier it should become to interpret and understand what you are reading. You will not be able to master this at first reading. That's the reason we say to you, you need to do what? reread the passage so that things or ideas or the interpretation could be more clear. Are you with me, learners? Let us recap. Let us think back of what we have learned this afternoon. The SQ3R method or the SQRRR method. What do you remember about that? We said we do what? We scan. That is looking over the passage quickly. We check or read the questions. We read the passage for the first time. Then we reread the passage and answer the questions or highlight the evidence. And lastly, what do? We recheck that all questions have been answered and evidence has been provided. So what is that? The SQ3R method. Now, we read the passage again. This time, you should be aware of what has been asked. We highlight the main idea. The first sentence is the key sentence. Words and ideas that were confusing at first are now much more clearer. The more you read, the more familiar you are with the passage. Now, learners, we're moving on to the critical aspect, that is answering of questions. Earlier in the year, we have explained to you what an iceberg is. So reading a comprehension is like tasting an iceberg. We have different levels, 5 to be exact. We have level 1 questions, level 2, level 3, level 4, and level 5. What does level 1 questions entail according to the Barrett's taxonomy? They require you as a learner for literal meaning or knowledge. It is the knowledge questions, something that you need to know. And where do you find the literal or the knowledge? In the text, in the passage that you have read. The questions that you will be asked are: name, state the facts, identify, list, tell, describe, or recall certain information. We also have level 2 questions that needs reorganization in your mind. That's knowledge that you are now going to put it together by analyzing it, synthesizing, or organization of that information that you already have. So the questions that are critical here are: you need to summarize. You'll be called forward to summarize or to group things, to give differences, similarities, or to give an outline. These questions, we call them very easy questions. They are a must for you to get. Then we move on to level 3 questions. They are a bit difficult, or they need a little bit of your intellect and you scratching your hair or your head. It is, you are now engaging with information on a personal level. We require you to do what? To explain, to compare, to tell us what the writer's intention is. Your true-false questions, your multiple choice question, then the visual and the graphic literature questions. Then we move on to the last set of questions, that is level 4 and level 5. In level 4, you have to give a judgment of value or to give a judgment on certain things. Do you think, we want your opinion, is the title suitable? Do you agree with? We want you to give us facts, or we want an opinion from you. So we asking you to pass judgment or to give these kind of ideas. The last set is appreciation. You assess the impact of the text. You discuss whether the author was effective in saying the following words. You discussing the writer's use of ideas, discussing the effectiveness or the responses too. Let's look at the answering techniques. It is important to interpret and follow the instructions exactly as they are given. Remember, if you are to quote, you quote from the passage. If you use own words, own words. If you write one word is given. Does the answer need a full sentence or a word or a phrase? Avoid starting sentences with conjunctions such as what? Because, and, but, and so. The mark allocation is usually a suggestion of the number of points needed. Now, we are going to look at the example of a text. Cyber criminals harvest users' personal information. Firstly, when you see the question paper, they will give you a reading passage, and it will be from question 1, section A, and the instruction there is read the text A and answer the set questions, and that is our text A. Let's read. Cyber criminals uses personal information. The next time you log onto a video meeting or stream a movie, it could cost you your livelihood. This is the stark warning by IT experts who say cyber criminals have pivoted to targeting sites like Netflix and Zoom to harvest users' personal information and hack their accounts. Netflix gained over 16 million users during the pandemic, while video conference application Zoom has seen a 1,900% increase in active users. That was during the beginning of COVID-19, the pandemic. Criminals use sophisticated methods to bypass systems that flag phishing attacks. According to cybersecurity from Checkpoint, phishing attacks by Netflix look-alikes doubled, with many offering payment options to steal user data and payment information. Fake Netflix emails have been circulating, claiming there are issues with users' accounts. telling users, be careful, telling users to update their payment information. The link leads victims to a genuine looking Netflix website designed to steal users' names and passwords, as well as payment details. Now let's look closer in responding to these questions. The next time you log onto a video or stream a movie, it could cost you your livelihood. This is the stark warning by IT experts who say cyber criminals have pivoted to targeting sites like Netflix and Zoom to harvest users' personal information and hack their accounts. When you have read this, you would automatically look at or underline words that you think you do not know. IT expert, cyber, pivoted, targeting, harvest, hack. Then you will have to check what these words are in your head. Right. The examiner or your teacher, when they have given you a reading passage, they will direct you to what you need to do. Question 1.1. Refer to paragraph 1. That is the paragraph that we have just read. Learners, we do not just start answering questions without, when they say to us refer, what does that mean? We go back to the passage. Remember, I read the whole extract, the whole passage. Now, the passage or the instruction says refer to paragraph 1. And what have I done? I have read paragraph 1. The next time you log onto a video or stream a movie, that's when now you're going back and you're reading paragraph 1. The question, name 2 sites that are targeted by cyber criminals. Where do you find the answer? In this very same paragraph. What do the words "it could cost you your livelihood" mean? I hope you have made a mental note of what it means by "it could cost you your livelihood." Then you are given a further instruction. The further instruction says, refer to lines 2 to 4. Let's see. Line 1, line 2. We have line 1 there, 2, 3, and 4. Explain why the writer mentions IT experts. I'm not going to give you answers to these questions. These are meant for you to check whether you understand how we tackle questions in a paragraph reading session or a comprehension test reading session. What levels are those? When we say name, it is for literal information or real information, and that is level 1 and 2. What do, that is level 1 and 2 again, information. And then we have level 3. Our level 3 question is explain why. Then moving on. Paragraph 2. Netflix gained over 16 million new users during the pandemic, while video conference application Zoom has seen a 1,900% increase in active users. Massive, isn't it? Question: why do you think Netflix and Zoom gained more users? What level is that? Okay. Let's move on to the third paragraph. The introductory question says, refer to paragraph 3. And what do you do now as a learner? You go to paragraph 3 and you start reading. Criminals use sophisticated methods to bypass systems that flag phishing attacks. According to cybersecurity firm Checkpoint, phishing attacks by Netflix lookalikes doubled, with many offering payment options to steal users' data and payment information. And how did they do that? Fake Netflix emails have been circulating claiming there are issues with users' accounts, telling users to update their payment information. The link leads victims to a genuine looking Netflix website designed, I'm underlining designed or circulating designed, to steal usernames and passwords, as well as payment details. Again, important, did you see what I've done? I've underlined words that I think I do not have knowledge of or grasp of. Another word that I did not underline, phishing, bypass, sophisticated, cybersecurity. And you making what? Mental notes as you proceed to read. Let us see the question asked here. They instructed us to go back to paragraph 3 and read. Then the question says, using your own words, explain what phishing is in the context of the passage. I think by now you have already made a mental note of what phishing could mean. Remember, information was given out, an email asked for information, and an unsuspecting victim responds to the emails. After responding to the email, what happens? In a genuine looking like a Netflix website, and information was stolen. Now, the next question. State why it would be difficult to detect when one is being paged. Why is it difficult to note? You go back to the passage, you read again, then you will get your answer. Remember, our responses are grounded in the text of the passage. Third question of paragraph 3. Explain why the writer has included the name checkpoint. Interesting, isn't it? So you have to also infer and to think, why is checkpoint included? You're checking your information, isn't it? You check and check again. Right. Now, let's look at the levels of the questions that were asked. Why do you think is a level 3? Using own words, explain or infer is level 3. State why do you think is also level 3. Explain why is level 3. So the questions asked for passage number 3 were all inference questions and they were set at level 3. Now let's look at the last paragraph. Williams said, there are a number of ways users can minimize their chances of falling victim to cybercrime. No longer is your username and password good enough. Users and companies practicing cyber security discipline have to make use of two-factor authentications, network access control, and a new digitized method to ensure that when a user logs on, the company practices a zero trust policy to ensure the strongest method of cyber security in all parts of their IT and OT networks. Then you will underline your IT and your OT. What is OT? Be aware of what you put out on all your social media applications, as a thread is also now being used to build personal profiles and share information amongst the hacker communities. This passage was adapted from the Saturday Star of May 2020. Do you empathize with the people he sees as victims? Give a reason for your answer. Discuss whether the title Cyber Criminal Harvest Users' Personal Information is appropriate for the article. So, these are your level 4 questions, 4 and 5. Do you empathize? Discuss whether the title is appropriate. So we call on you to evaluate and to show appreciation. So those questions are level 4 and 5. That was text A of our comprehension test. And it calls for how many marks? 24 marks. Text B usually counts how many marks? 6 marks. Text B has to do with visual images or a visual comprehension test. Are you able to analyze and infer on the images or the visuals that we see. Let's read the graph below and answer the set questions. Lockdown vices. Indians turn to TV and TikTok. What did you say about skimming and scanning? You quickly check. Words that you don't know, skimming, scanning, lockdown. What is lockdown? What are vices? What is TikTok? Net change is expected media consumption among Indians in the 2 weeks following March the 30th, 2020. 60% watching online videos. 57% of this population watched TV shows or movies. Plus minus 48%, they watched linear TV. 48%, they engaged in social media. 48%, they chatted or texted. And about 11% played video games. And sadly, 3% did what? They read books and magazines. This is the survey of 582 Indians conducted when? In March the 23rd up to the 3rd of March 2020. The source, the person who compiled this, is McKinsey and Company, Statista. Right. Let's look at the questions. I would like you learners, when you do text B, do not just skim and scan and quickly go back to the questions and answer and get away with it. Those 6 marks are important. So that's the reason I went into detail when reading this text number B. Now let's look at the questions. What message is conveyed by the 3 bars that are the same height? You go to the passage, you look at the 3 bars that are the same height. Can you see the 3 bars that are the same height? Yes, we see the 3 bars that are the same height. What is the message then? You will respond to that. In your view, is the inclusion of McKinsey and Company suitable in this visual? The source there. Who compiled the survey is McKinsey and Company. So the question is, in your view, is it really relevant or is it suitable that this information is included in the visual? What is the message? It is your level 3 type of question. And then the last question, we want you to evaluate or to judge whether the inclusion of the company's logo, McKinsey and Company, is suitable. So that is your level 4. Let's look at practical advice when answering comprehension questions. How to put your comprehension skills to practice. Question word and circle the word. Highlight the key words in sentences. Remember where you read the keyword, the beginning or the middle or end of the passage. You scan each paragraph for what? For keywords. Let's look at the first question again. Refer to paragraph 1. What do? You encircle the question and then you highlight where you have seen the words. The answer is, the two sides are Netflix and Zoo. And what do you get now? You get your 2 marks. Your numbering must correspond with the numbering of the questions. If the number is 1.1.1, you must not answer 1 or A. Stick to the numbering system in the passage or in the reading comprehension. If you are asked to describe in 3 sentences what the character looks like, don't give 2 or 4. Stick to the instructions. What is required? What is required in this instance? 3 sentences. So it shouldn't be 2, it shouldn't be 4. It should be right on point. 3. Do not give one-word answers if you are asked for a sentence. Each answer must be written on a new line. When quoting from the text, enclose the quote with inverted commas. Can you see the inverted commas? Yes. When asked to describe the tone of any text, remember what we said you should do? You use one adjective. Edit your work to check that you have answered correctly. Check for your spelling and language errors, because this could result to what? To loss of marks. Write clearly and neatly to avoid possible discrepancies. Tips for you to master comprehension test, for you to earn yourself what? The 30 marks. It is not going to be a once-off idea when you sit for a comprehension test, when you do your controlled test that you have done in term 1. Remember, you've done a comprehension test in term 1, task 4 for 40 marks. You will also sit for a comprehension test again when you do what? When you write your prelim paper 1. And then at the end, you are going to do what? to write your final exam comprehension test. So we cannot leave this to chance. You need to practice this comprehension skills whenever possible, not only in a test situation. You can reinforce your comprehension skills daily. In actual fact, let's have a challenge. Before the end of each day, make sure, grade 12 learner, that you read a passage. You can get it from your literature text, from your newspaper, from articles that you find on Google. Just make sure that you read on a daily basis. And when you have read, if you travel by bus, sit in the bus, read something interesting, and when you get home, start a conversation. Tell your parents or your siblings what you have read about. That will reinforce your comprehension skills. Again, when you listen to conversations or instructions on the radio, please practice those by retelling those to the next person. When you arrive in class the next day, engage with your friends about the current news that are happening in South Africa. You will be able to remember things. You will be able to read with understanding because you will have an audience. By the time you sit for your exams, you will have a wealth of information and your mind and your brain will be tuned to answering correctly. When watching television programs or films, grab any opportunity to retell or summarize what you have watched to other people. When reading books or newspapers or magazine articles, please be on the lookout. We have a lot. Can you see the magazines there? We have a lot of magazines. And if you can't find a hard copy of something to read, on your phone, there's always material that you can Google, that you can read through. Strategies in the exam. Remember what we said earlier? 50 minutes. Comprehension sections pit you against the clock. This means that you need to do well. You need to be as efficient as possible. So what can we do to beat the clock? Let's have a look. Take advantage of your reading time. When you sit for an exam, you are given how many minutes? 10 minutes reading time. So that's simple, isn't it? The simple time for you to read. You will always be given more reading time than you should need. Use it to its utmost by reading questions first and then reading the text. If you have time to read your text again, read the questions again and look specifically for the answers. Take the time to make brief notes. You can make mental notes, and as soon as you are allowed to write, quickly write on the question paper or inside the answer book using your pencil. When your writing time begins, take a few minutes to plan your written responses. This is not the waste of time it sounds like. No. If you plan what evidence you will use in your answers and how you will use it, you won't encounter what we call the writer's block when you respond. Writer's block is something like, I don't remember what I need to write. I read it somewhere, and you'll be hitting your forehead trying to get responses. But if you have planned accordingly, written on your question paper quickly, then you will be able to return back, to go back and then write carefully thought out responses. In addition, you will have the opportunity to reevaluate your initial ideas as you write your responses, isn't it? Sometimes we write too hastily. But when we finish writing, instead of you putting your pen down and lying on top of your table in the classroom or in your exam room, use that time to reevaluate. Go back, read the question, read the answer again, and then check if you are on the right track. You'll find often that you have given the wrong answer, or you have numbered incorrectly. So you have ample time to do what? To reevaluate your responses. Prioritize what you need to get in the back. We want those marks in the back, very important. If you are worried about running out of time, be strategic. What does that mean, being strategic? It simply means you start with responses that you know. In this instance, if you have a question worth 4 marks and 3 questions worth 1 mark, you really need to get that 4-mark question answered. You'll start with it, isn't it? If you run out of time on a 1-mark question, you only lose 1 mark. However, if you don't start the 4-mark question or only partly answer it, you will lose more marks. So prioritize which questions you're going to start with. The more marks, the more gain. Check that you have content all the way. Don't be shallow. Don't not leave things unanswered. We want everything answered. Be concise. A lot of learners are guilty of this. They waffle. You need to be concise. When answering a comprehension short answer question, do not waffle. Get to the point as quickly as you can. If you have a question worth 2 marks, do not use 3 examples and write a paragraph. Write a couple of sentences using 1 or 2 sentences. Mark allocation is important. It tells you how much you should write. So do not waffle. I say it again, I repeat, don't waffle. Don't say something in 5 words if you can say it in 2 words. Let's see this example. Don't write. The composer Hughes tries to show the audience why we need to look after and nourish our dreams. Rather, write, Hughes explores why we should nourish and follow our dreams. Concise, isn't it? We have written initially, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 words. And when we write briefly and to the point, how many words have we used? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 words. So we have dropped how many words? 18. How do I get better at comprehension sections? There is no golden bullet for improving your responses to comprehension questions. You have to practice the skills involved. How do you practice those skills? By reading. Remember earlier we said, read whatever you can get your hands on. Critical thinking and textual analysis. Do not be afraid to write. Write and write. The best way to do this is to take as many practice comprehension papers as you can get your hands on. For this year, I said you only have 3 opportunities to sit for your comprehension test. This is formal time that you're going to use, but nothing stops you to make a commitment to yourself that I will at least try 1 comprehension passage weekly. So if we start counting from here now, up until we sit for the exams, you shall have covered over 20 comprehension tests. And the first time it will get difficult, but as you go, you will breeze through. And what does that mean? At the end of the year, you will be able to ace the comprehension test easily. Thank you so much for watching this lesson.